Welcome to the broadcast, everyone. This is Leland Best, your host of Best Live TV. Got a little last minute change in the scenery there, so if there's any titles missing, then that's my fault. We had a couple of guys in the back, weren't sure whether we were going to come on today, but this is episode 21, I believe it is already, for the Best AI podcast going into 2025. So happy to have who we have with us here today. To my left, right, whichever side of the screen he's on, where you're watching from, is Mr. Jim Hankins, creator of cribops.com. Be sure to go check that out. Below me, we've got Corey Taylor from Sekou Designs, and over in my kitty corner is Ross McCamey of Maverick Solutions. Welcome to the broadcast, guys. How you doing? Open it up. It's a free world. It's free speech. You can say whatever you want.
What's up, guys? Glad to be here.
Yeah. What I'm really hoping to do, guys, in the future is just make this an open forum discussion so that we can talk. Ross and Kyrie, just for your sake of familiarity when it comes to the podcast going forward, let's go this route and plan on having headphones, earbuds, any of that sort, anything but Bluetooth. Helps the sound quality and clarity for all of us in the final production as we move ahead, and that way any background noises that might be coming through your speakers as an echo won't show up. We had that issue a few times in the past, but right now we're good. I'm not worried about it. So a lot going on, guys. I just had a broadcast with Ray, and this is kind of how this is going to go. I go through this show with Ray every Tuesday night at 8 p.m. at New Oaks AI. And Ray's kind enough to give me some of the goings on of what's happening in the AI space, even though yesterday we didn't cover a lot of that because the news was really all about TikTok. I mean, let's admit it. That was like the news of the day all weekend long, all through Monday and Tuesday, what was going to happen to TikTok. So I'm going to ask you guys straight up. Do you guys have accounts on TikTok that were affected by the change, the ban that took place? Jim, start with you.
Nope. I
Not
am
at all?
pretty much non-existent there. I have an account. I don't use it. Yeah.
Okay.
No reason. Although I'm just not real big on social media anyways. I'm the engineer. You don't let the engineers talk to the customer. So yeah,
That's what they say. That's what they say. Curry, what about you? Are you a president on TikTok?
No. I'm same as Jim. I have an account, barely use it. Mostly just to see what my kids are doing. Like I don't really use it at all. I am going to be using it shortly. I have a vertical around some of the things that I do with AI and training people that I'm probably going to lean into that. Just depends. I not sure, but yeah, I don't. It didn't.
No, I get it.
I didn't even bat an eye.
I was just curious. I wanted to find out. And Ross, what about you? I suspect you might have an account out there. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and not only that, I found out from Ray there was another site, and I'll be sharing that. I don't have the name right in front of me, but well, I could. I just installed the app last night. Ray, being in China, notified me of another one. It's called Red Note.
Red Note,
And
yeah.
what ended up happening was there was a hashtag created almost immediately over there when TikTok was banned, and it was hashtag TikTok refugees.
Hmm.
So everybody bailed and went over to Red Note, and it's a very similar platform. It's made also by another Chinese company, but they don't
All in
have,
Mandarin, right?
yeah, it's a whole different platform, but it is translatable. So and they actually have ways that people are onboarding, and they're like taking on anyone that's coming from America. Honestly, they were kind of shocked that everybody suddenly showed up over there. But yeah, it just goes to show you do need to own your own real estate. And I think it just comes full circle around to what we're doing here at Best AI Podcast. We are trying to help people develop their own internal labs, their own internal servers, their own ways to host their sites, host their, their automations, whatever it might be, their AI, there's so many things that I think are making a big turn toward that now, and that's something we need to kind of focus on here as well. So, Jim, just to touch on where we were last week with crib ops, what have you seen just in this last week since you've been out kind of toying around with your app? Are you seeing more interest for one? And are you now maybe finding more applications that crib ops could be used in rather than just, a front end for an end build or something like
Right.
that?
Yes. So I've definitely been focused mostly on plumbing in the last week, internally building infrastructure to essentially do demonstrations and use cases, right? Because effectively we're more or less just a transport mechanism. So it's not terribly exciting to display it all by itself. So yeah, I've built things in the home lab for like resilient database servers and those kinds of things, and custom app stacks and things, so that I can start to pull things together and make sense of it all to the general public. So I will get back on the socials here shortly, but yeah, I've been rolling up my sleeves and building for the last week.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think we all have. I know I disappeared for a little bit there as well, just so I could start throwing some more of my back end stuff together. Because as someone who's automating things for other people, it seems just like a plumber, like Jim says, we are usually the last ones to get the automations ourselves for some of our own stuff. It's like the leak still drips in the back, but everybody else's leak is fixed. So, Kari, what are you finding just over the last week? I know you're new to the podcast. You're not. Our format is usually pretty loose. It's about bring what you can to the table. So,
Yeah.
in your
I
experience, just
mean,
in the last week, what are you seeing as a change in 2025 moving forward? I see a lot of stuff
well,
happening.
I mean, before I talk about that, I want to
Yeah, go for
comment
it.
on what you just said, like that piece about owning your own real estate, essentially. I mean, even if it's in the AI space, right? I think that's super paramount now, right? Because it does a couple of things. Obviously the control and independence thing is obvious, but it also helps you establish authority too, when you think about it, right? Like you're not beholden to third-party apps, similar to how people have workflows and processes that they wish they could trademark, right? It's
Oh,
like
that's good.
you hold on to that. It has all kinds of implications, brand equity, all those kinds of things come into account when you think about owning that kind of space. But um, I think the biggest thing that's blown up for me, at least that I'm getting questions and feedback on, are the features that have recently come out for the different LLMs. The biggest one right now that I'm getting asked about is the tasks feature, right? The task feature inside of ChatGPT. That one's a big one. A lot of people are wanting to know like what it is. It uses it's pretty powerful. It's limited, right? Anybody who's like a power user, like the like that builds these kinds of things, 10 tasks isn't going to do it,
Yeah,
right?
I
Um,
hear.
but being able to iterate over that process is a big deal. I think it's a big call to that key phrase that I've been hearing towards the end of last year, and it's like paramount this year, like really big in that agentic workflows. Like I think it's just a part of the next step towards that ultimate goal or inevitability, I guess, at this point.
No,
Yeah, I
I
think those
agree.
are the two biggest things for sure.
Well, we've definitely, miniaturized everything to the point that not only do we not need a mainframe unit to be able to run a network, but we can put
Hmm.
it in a box this big now and set it off on the shelf, and everything seems to run just fine. But even in that regard, I think the thing we're running into the most is security, stability. Sure, we can run an in-house server off of a 486 probably if we wanted to for file serving and things of that nature, but it does come down to the question that any enterprise client would ask, and that is, okay, how secure is your data? Or what happens if you get hacked? Or what happens when your power goes down? So, Ross, how do you think we're going to be able to accommodate that? I mean, there's been a lot of talk, and maybe I'm throwing you into the fire here, but what are we going to do if we go and decide to build these systems for people and build in-house units and throw an M4 on a desktop for somebody, build this big automation out, and then let it go? What are the implications that we might run into here? Have you considered some of these? Oops, hold on a second, Ross. Hold on a second, Ross. I got something going on with your audio. Okay, go ahead. Sorry about that. Your audio was muted out on the transfer.
All
Go
right,
ahead.
so I think it comes down to the expectations that you set for the end user. If you tell them, hey, this is going to run flawlessly on the back end, here you go, set it, leave it, you're bound for failure. There's nothing that you're going to be doing there that's going to set them up for success. But if you give them a plan on how to use it and you set the understanding that this is going to require maintenance, there's going to be updates that have to happen, there's different security measures that you have to take now because you're now the one responsible for that data. You're not putting that on OpenAI, you're not putting that on Claude, anybody out there that's doing this. I think what we're going to see is kind of some of these companies go to that model of wanting to be self-hosted, and they're going to succeed. They're going to be able to completely train that model how they want to. They'll be able to update it. They'll be able to say, okay, Anthropic is now outdated. We're going to use DeepSeek now. We're going to download that and update it, and they're going to run with it. And then there are going to be other people that pay a company like ours that come in and say, hey, I have no clue what's going on. I need somebody to come in and do this. And those companies like Maverick Solutions, we're going to come in and we're going to say, we have two options. You can either get this done this way and you can buy the system and you can own it. And we offer a package on the back end to help you with that and maintain it for you. Or you can rent the system from us and we will host it and we'll take care of everything on the back end. And I think those are going to be the two routes that you have to go for those companies that don't understand fully how to do this. But I think like anything else with tech, when the first computer came out, people were terrified. How do I use this? What's this thing that I have to click? What's this, green screen they got to type into? And people adapted. They learned the system. And I think already we can see AI is now starting to see adoption. People are starting to learn things. And I think the biggest hurdle that's going to be need to be overcome is going to be the database maintenance and security.
Yeah, I agree. And
Yeah.
when you say that people are learning, Jim, if you want to jump in there, please do go ahead. Because I think from a security standpoint, you might be able to help us with a perspective there that what are people with their own home labs going to have to consider when it comes to security? We're not just talking SSL here now. We're talking about database security, infrastructure security, making sure there's no DDoS or DDoS attacks. I mean, what do we do to protect ourselves against that kind of stuff?
Well, first, there's not that big of a difference between the on-premise side and the shared model in the cloud, right? So if you're you always had a expectation that there was ownership of security for part of that stack. Now the trouble is people in the cloud hosted side, they just presume everything's being managed by the cloud provider until they realize that they were incorrect, right? But it's all the same things. Whether you're hosting it on premise or in the cloud, you have to deal with all the aspects of security. The encryption at rest, encryption of the transport, physical security. Where is your facility and how easy is it to gain access to it and have someone run off with storage media? That's where this encryption at rest comes into play, right?
Yeah.
Single points of failure is really where I see the biggest challenge for people because they don't realize what it defines a single point of failure. Is the server you're running on, is it just got a single power supply? Is it just plugged into one circuit? Is it just one server? Does it have just one drive? Does it have just one NIC? Is it plugged into just one switch? All these different things, right? So those are the complexities that people have to think of as well. And it may be that your application, the impact for an outage is low for a particular application. You really just have to judge, what is you're doing and what is the impact of the business if you're down for a day.
Yeah, I agree. And I think what I'm discovering for myself anyway, and this is just trying to build some flows that I would consider SaaS products for other people that I could run off of a system like N8N in-house. But then I continuously sit here going, yeah, that'd be nice, but what if? And I sit here thinking, just what if? And so then I go back to building that same workflow in a more stable, not on-premise, but off-premise infrastructure that's in the cloud that I know I can access from anywhere, that I know is fully secured by a hosting company that has more than just me building the security layer for that. So I think it really does come down to, what's your station in this place?
Yeah,
Do you
I think
have Go ahead, Curry. Fill in the
Sorry.
blank.
Yeah, I think as we talk through these things of that, essentially, I could probably put a label of operational continuity around, right? Like it's just one of those things where it helps you realize that the security of it isn't just about protecting the data, right? Similar to what Ross was saying, you'd have to go into it being to a certain point transparent enough with your clients that they know where things lie, right? And then that leads you into things like regulatory compliance. You know, owning your own systems, it shifts the onus of compliance, like Ross was saying, on you. And that's going to require a level of ongoing vigilance that, you know, will allow you to ensure adherence to industry specific solutions and regulations, and especially things like healthcare and finance and government. All those kinds of things come into play when you think about those. And although you may be a self-sustaining system, as we've seen over the last 5 years minimum, everything wants to talk to everything else. So now you have to mitigate the risk of what that means if their, you know, operational continuity isn't down. Deciding what systems you're going to integrate with, what kind of things you're going to allow to send packets in and send packets to, right? Like that kind of thing, you have to consider it when you think about what the physical and software tech stack is for your company and what you're offering. It complicates it, but it's a not a nice to have anymore. It's a need to have. So
Yeah. And I
yeah.
think that stirs up a big pot because, you know, not only like Jim mentioned UPS or, you know, a way to at least protect the power supply coming into your system. I have one on each computer over here. It's not like I take that lightly, but I don't have a gas powered generator sitting outside, and I don't have a link to two separate ISPs that I can flip a switch and connect over to in case one of those fails on me at this time. So one of the reasons I pulled out of broadcasting for events, you know, anyway, where it comes down to you've got 40,000 people attending an event with, you know, 1,000 presenters, and I go down. I've had it happen. You know, if there's anybody from office hours watching right now, they've witnessed me lose an entire broadcast over a comms break. And that was just a back end disconnect on a simple comms app. I couldn't hear talent. I couldn't talk to talent. So it was like, what do I do next? I fly by the seat of my pants watching gauges bounce, hoping everything's going out the way it should be. And yeah, we monitor these things all the time. But Jim, what do you see? Like, I look at this as, okay, we better have business insurance. We better have some type of really good security software in place to protect against, you know, the hackers. Let's just go that route, or whatever hardware we can install. But do you see anything else that we might consider? Or Ross, either of you want to pipe in on this? First come, first
Yeah.
serve.
Yeah. So you know, one of the things to consider also is that you do have the flexibility. You know, it doesn't have to be an all-in. I would suggest that hybrid. Hybrid situations are definitely something you should look at. I've had some experience in that in the emergency communications space, right, where we had to have a on-premise solution for the purpose of coordinating rescues, right? But then we also needed to have the ability to receive those messages from space. And so there had to be infrastructure that was resilient, and we chose cloud infrastructure for that, right? And then we had to build in resilience for the response center in the event that they had a hurricane, which happened once or twice while they were in existence. You have to think about the whole thing, the whole operational readiness side. But with hybrid cloud, you do have the capability of running on premise those solutions that make sense for you to do it, either because of intellectual property or data privacy concerns or those kinds of things, or cost is oftentimes a big one. But if your workload requires you to be, business continuity, drives the behavior, that if your on-premise solution is unavailable for whatever reason, you can always or oftentimes fall back to the cloud on demand, based upon, the availability. And, you wonder why I use like queues in between a lot of my systems. The advantage of that is it applies only in like, these on-demand async jobs, right? But all you have to do is manage the queue depth. Why is the queue depth suddenly rising? Why is the average age of the messages increasing? Oh, premise number one is down. So that can kick off an automated, pilot like process to start infrastructure in the cloud and start processing those queues to get the job done until such a time that the on-premise solution goes up, or it just could be another on-premise site,
Yes.
primary, secondary site,
That
So
brings
having
in
a buffer helps in
Yeah,
between
that
you
brings
and
in supply chain security too, right?
Yeah.
Like you
yeah.
have to be able to accommodate and think through that.
Mm-hmm.
And then, you know, you can even go down a rabbit hole around the emerging threats within the AI space in and of itself, right? As AI
Yeah.
evolves, so do the threats. So,
Right.
I've it's adversarial attacks where like inputs get manipulated to deceive AI models, or I think they call it model poisoning, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like that stuff is gonna there's probably multiple thousands of people hunkered down in their bunker somewhere right now working on these exact things, leveraging the AI models, not for productivity in the space that the average consumer looks at it, but
Right.
specifically to compromise systems that are leveraging these AI to build out the infrastructure that backs that system. So yeah, it's I don't want to go down the black hole theory, but there's it just goes to show there's so many different things to consider um
Well,
when it
even
comes to this
Ross and
stuff.
I, and I'll cut in on that because Ross, I'll let you take it from here. What have you just experienced over the last couple of years having to deal with just backup systems? Because this is in its infancy. We don't even know whether the latest and greatest is going to function properly. I mean, look what happened to Google. Their entire LLM blew up in their face, right in front of everyone, in front of millions of people, and they still saved face in the end. But what are we doing, Ross? We have to do this. We have to build redundancy, and it really comes down to that. So tell us what we've had to do just over the course of the last year to protect ourselves there.
This has been actually one of the benefits to the learning curve that you and I have been on with this whole journey is we build in some systems that we use together, and all of a sudden one component of that system breaks. Everything else is still fine, but that one component that's integral goes down, and now you're dependent on somebody else's dev team to fix that. Well, in the meantime, my clients are over here asking me questions, and I'm sitting here kicking the bucket saying, I don't know, we're waiting on them. How long is this going to be? So in that time, I learned I can't have just one system. We had to build redundancy. So what does this system do? It does X, Y, and Z. Cool. I need to build that here, here, and here. I need to have a couple of backup systems if this goes down to switch. And this has even been not even just systems breaking, but look at the jockeying for position in the AI space right now.
Yeah.
You've got OpenAI who just announced Project Stargate. $500 billion is going to be invested in the next 4 years into this project with Oracle, OpenAI, and a couple other companies. I can't remember who they were right now, but
SoftBank.
now,
Yeah,
yeah.
SoftBank.
And what's that going to do to Claude, who partnered with Amazon? So they've got a good war chest to do. And then you've got DeepSeek coming in, undercutting everybody, just trying to do the same thing OpenAI did a few short years ago to get user base and just usage up on their system. And DeepSeek is one of the better ones that you're using. It sounds very human when you use it. I started using it over OpenAI. But these are the type of things that are just changing the. It's
Yeah.
like a foundation of sand. Which one's going to crumble? Which one's going to, get turned into concrete and be the pillar of everything we stand on? And right now, I've got to say, I'm probably betting on OpenAI with that $500 billion infrastructure they're about to build. But it's.
I think it's hilarious
Crazy.
that from a historical context, some people may not remember, but Project Stargate, wasn't that the name of that US Army unit established in the 70s for like psychic phenomena?
Yeah, I believe
I'm
so.
pretty sure it was. So it's just interesting to know that they named it like some, maybe it wasn't connected, but I don't know, dude. Like
Well, keep in mind, Aladdin has been an AI that's been in the financial space for over 2 decades. So
Mm,
AI is nothing new. It's new to the public, and now we finally have
mhm,
access to it at a level we've never had in the past, and it continues to expand. But Sam Altman was a nobody. The people at DeepSync were nobodies. Nobody knows who these people were or where they came from, just out of the blue. And I think that's where we need to understand the full blue sky effect that we're in right now. Is
mhm.
or blue ocean effect, I should say. Either way you look at it, there's a lot of space to play, and it will consistently evolve over the next few years. So we don't really know what we're into yet. We're just feeling out the space, trying to figure out what it's going to become.
Yeah.
And I just see us continuously evolving over the next few years still. So
Yeah. I think it's
Now, the last
important
few
to remember too, though, like
yeah, go ahead.
one last point about like Project Stargate. You're talking about Microsoft, NVIDIA, Oracle, and OpenAI, right? And they're all collaborating on this development. Like they had ChatGPT well before they released it to the public also, right? So it's just one of those things where it's like, unless you're in the room, you have to try your best to be on the like on the cutting edge to try to stay up to date on this stuff, because it's like when these companies will release something and it completely destroys people's businesses. Like someone will build a
They can.
complete niche and infrastructure around one specific use case. They'll release something for free and it completely demolishes them. Similar to how you can't that old adage of don't put all your eggs in one basket is more relevant than ever, because that's why I diversify. A lot of people think, oh, multiple streams. Like, dude, you need multiple niches, because you can't just focus on one thing. You have to be versatile, and be able to adapt in this current climate, man. It's a necessity.
It happened really fast too, because even OpenAI came out saying they were not going to get into the business of building chatbots. That was one of the first claims they made, that they were only going to provide the backbone infrastructure for those businesses that wanted to build chatbots. And now look at them. They've gone beyond building just chatbots in general. Now they're taking it to the next level of chatbot. And so, yeah, those people who focus specifically on that entirety of the niche are going to get kicked in the pants, and they're going to have to take it on the chin, because they should have seen it coming. They're the owner of the platform. At some point, they're going to take advantage of what they have the capability to produce. So they're going to produce what they can, just as a moneymaker. But we can't deny capitalist environment works the way it does. So go ahead, Ross. What do you got?
One other thing I want to note here too is there's been some heavy evidence that Oracle is a CIA-controlled company as well. So when you think about what Donald Trump just said that he would propose for TikTok coming over here, that he wants to be a 50-50 partner with TikTok, I don't think anybody really likes the idea of the government owning your social media platform. That's because you can say free speech all you want, but we know that if you come out too much, you get too much of a platform, they're going to censor you. So when it comes to that, you sit here and think about the government being in bed with a $500 billion AI project. That is a little bit scary, and I think we need to keep our eyes on that as well.
Yeah, we talked about that too, as well as, when it comes to the diversification and the centralization of the data. I think we do need to be careful that there's also an essence of democratization that takes place, because if we don't have that in place now and the governments take over the power of control of these AI systems, then we do have an issue.
Oh yeah.
But let's call it for that. Let's not get into the politics of it today. That'll be for another event. Jim's still going strong with cribops.com, so be sure to go check out what he's got going on over there. We want to let all of those home labbers over there know that there is a better way. You can find Jim over at cribops.com, where he has built a platform that allows you to connect your home lab securely to the internet and run those little SaaS builds that you want to do for yourself. If you want to find out more about what we're doing over at Best AI Podcast, simply go to bestai.tv, where we broadcast every Wednesday at noon. And if we feel like bringing you on, we'll bring you on. If you have something that you're really good at in AI, or you want to bring something to the table, please get a hold of us. Simply fill out the form at the bottom of the page. You'll get the notifications for each broadcast. Oh, by the way, Kari, did you get like 10 notifications this morning for the podcast? No,
I
you
may
would
have.
I built a flow. I built a flow, and I built a bad flow that didn't work the way I wanted it to. So just for those that may have gotten that 10 email blast this morning for the notifications, that was my bad. I made a loop, and the loop started and stopped at the wrong point. So I had to drag it down a space to
err is human. To really mess up, you need a computer.
That's right. Absolutely. Thank you for that, Jim. I appreciate you. And we hope that we'll have some other attendees here next week. Lee Love is hoping to be back on the show, along with Chris Troca, who we woke up this morning. He's not quite ready for this noonday podcast. Maybe one of these days we'll get him out here early enough. So take care, everybody. Guys, thanks for coming. We'll see you next week. Another episode of Best AI Podcast. Take care.